I need to start this with something that's going to sound dramatic, but I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll understand why I'm being so direct. Your money is vanishing, not stolen, not lost in a bad investment. It's disappearing through a perfectly legal system that looks like it's helping you. And here's the thing that should genuinely terrify you. We're seeing this accelerate right now in December 2025. The official inflation rate just hit 2.6% in November 2025, up from 2.3% the month before. But we both know that's not what you're experiencing when you go to the shops, is it? Before we go any further, smash that like button and subscribe to Brick and Pound News. Because what I'm about to share doesn't make me popular with banks or politicians. But it might be the most important financial information you hear all year. Let me tell you about Sarah. She's a secondary school teacher in Manchester, 42 years old. For 18 years, she's done everything the financial advisors tell you to do. Never missed a mortgage payment. Puts £300 a month into savings. Lives responsibly. Last month, when I showed her the real numbers on her finances, her face went pale. In 18 years of disciplined saving, doing exactly what she was supposed to do, she'd lost £57,000 in purchasing power. Not through gambling, not through bad investments, through being responsible. And here's what keeps me up at night. Sarah is the rule, not the exception. If you're earning between £30,000 and £80,000 a year, this is happening to you right now. The Bank of England tells you inflation is 2.6%. Your savings account, if you're getting a decent deal, might pay you around 4% to 4.5% on a fixed rate account. Some banks like Monument and Chase are offering 4.5% on one-year fixed accounts. Kahoot offers 4.4%, and if you shop around, you might find 4.6%. Now on paper that sounds okay, right? You're actually beating inflation. Except, that 2.6% figure? It's not real. Let me show you something. The inflation basket, that collection of goods they use to calculate the rate, hasn't reflected actual British life since the 1980s. They've weighted it toward things that are getting cheaper. Televisions, electronics, gadgets you buy once every 5 years. Meanwhile, everything that actually empties your bank account every single month, rising at double, triple, sometimes quadruple that official rate. Your energy bill hasn't gone up 2.6%. Between 2021 and 2022, it literally doubled. The energy price cap hit £3,549 per year in October 2022, compared to £1,277 the year before. Your food shopping? It hasn't increased by 2.6%. Food inflation was running at 4.9% in October 2024, up from 4.5% in September. But it's even worse than that. Between August 2020 and August 2025, UK food prices rose by a total of 37.2%. Over the same period from 2015 to 2020, just 4.6%. Some categories are absolutely insane. Beef and veal prices were up 24.9% in August 2025 compared to August 2024. Butter up 18.9%. Chocolate up 15.4%. Council tax, train fares, insurance, petrol, childcare, the things you cannot avoid. These are rising at 8%, 10%, sometimes 12%. So let's do the math they hope you never do. You've got £20,000 in savings, earning 4.5% in a decent fixed-rate account. That's £900 a year before tax. Sounds pretty good, right? But with real inflation, the inflation that affects your actual spending, running closer to 8% on essentials, your money needs to grow by £1,600 just to maintain its purchasing power. You're not earning £900. You're losing £700 in actual purchasing power every single year, even with a competitive rate. Scale that up, £50,000 in savings, you're losing about £1,400 annually in real terms. £100,000? You're hemorrhaging nearly £3,000 a year. And this isn't accidental. The banks know exactly what they're doing. Now here's where it gets properly sinister. There's this thing called fiscal drag. Boring name, brutal impact. And it's probably the most genius wealth extraction mechanism ever invented, because most people don't even know it's happening to them. Here's how it works. The government sets tax thresholds. The personal allowance, that's £12,570. The higher rate threshold, that's £50,270. Then they freeze them. They've been frozen since April 2021, and they're staying frozen until at least April 2028. But your wages are rising, aren't they? You're getting a 3%, maybe 4% pay rise if you're lucky. Sounds like progress. Except that raise isn't real growth. It's just keeping pace with rising costs. Your actual purchasing power hasn't increased at all. But your nominal salary has. And that means more of your income creeps into higher tax brackets. Let me give you a real example. Someone earning £48,000 today might find themselves pushed into the 40% higher rate tax bracket as their salary increases with inflation, while the £50,270 threshold remains frozen. You're now paying 40% tax on money that in real terms isn't any higher than what you were earning 5 years ago at 20%. The Institute for Fiscal Studies ran the numbers. By 2028, fiscal drag will have pulled 4 million people into higher tax bands. 4 million people who never thought they'd be higher rate taxpayers. Teachers, nurses, police officers, suddenly classified as high earners because the government refused to move a line on a spreadsheet. Over 1 million people are now paying the 45% additional rate of income tax, with roughly 720,000 paying it on income between £125,140 and £211,562 in 2024/2025. That's hundreds of thousands more than just a few years ago. And make no mistake, this is deliberate. It's not incompetence. It's not an oversight. It's the only way the Treasury can raise massive amounts of tax revenue without actually announcing tax rises. Because if they stood up and said, "We're raising income tax rates," there would be riots. But if they just quietly let inflation push you into higher brackets while keeping their hands clean, you blame your boss, bad luck, the economy, anything except the mechanism that was specifically designed to extract maximum revenue from the middle class. The Office for Budget Responsibility estimates this freeze will raise tens of billions in additional tax revenue by 2028/29, money coming straight out of middle-class pockets. And here's the part that should make you furious. The truly wealthy don't pay this tax. They don't earn income through PAYE. They use dividends, capital gains, offshore structures. Fiscal drag doesn't touch them. This entire system targets the middle, the people who work for a living, save what they can, and play by the rules. But fiscal drag is just one arm of this machine. The second one is even more insidious because it targets the one asset class British people trust above everything else: property. For 50 years, we've been sold the same story. Property always goes up. Buy a house, build equity, retire comfortably. Your parents probably made more from their house than their entire career earnings. So you scrape together a deposit. You get a 95% mortgage at 5.5% interest. And you think you're building wealth. Let me show you the math that estate agents pray you never calculate. You buy a £300,000 house, £15,000 deposit, mortgage of £285,000. At 5.5% over 25 years, you'll pay back around £470,000. That's £185,000 in interest alone. Your £300,000 house actually cost you £485,000. But surely the house will appreciate, right? House prices always rise. Except they don't. Not in real terms. In November 2024, UK property prices rose 5.4% annually to an average of £268,000. In London, it's £534,400. Sounds impressive until you strip out inflation over 25 years. Then the average UK house has barely moved in genuine purchasing power. The numbers get bigger, sure, but everything else gets more expensive at the exact same rate. You're not getting wealthier. You're watching nominal figures increase, while your actual buying power stagnates. And that's before we talk about the real costs. Council tax, maintenance, insurance, repairs, the true cost of ownership, adds another 2% to 3% annually. Factor that in, and most homeowners are barely breaking even. They just never do the full calculation. But here's what should genuinely disturb you about the UK property market right now. In 2024, foreign ownership of UK property increased by 2.6% compared to the previous year. Hong Kong leads with 13.7% of foreign ownership, and Chinese investment saw a massive 12.9% increase. Between 2022 and 2024, foreign investors, particularly from Asia, bought £50 billion worth of UK real estate. Asian investors alone purchased £6 billion more than they sold. American investment has surged 40% year-on-year, driven by favourable exchange rates. Foreign buyers now account for approximately 13% of London property transactions and 5% nationally. These aren't people buying properties to live in them. They're buying them as wealth storage, safety deposit boxes with postcodes. In prime London areas, a huge percentage of new builds are sold to overseas investors before a single British buyer gets a viewing. These properties sit empty, dark windows, no families, no life, just financial instruments, appreciating while local people are priced out of their own cities. The government knows this is happening and they do relatively little because they need property prices to stay high. The entire UK economy is built on the illusion of property wealth. If prices correct to realistic levels, banks collapse, pensions collapse, everything collapses. So they keep the game going. And you keep playing, thinking you're building security, while you're actually just servicing debt in an artificially inflated market. Now here's where most people think I'm going to go all conspiracy theory on you. But I need you to listen carefully, because everything I'm about to tell you is documented, official, and happening right now. The Bank of England is developing something called the digital pound. Sounds modern, doesn't it? Efficient, convenient, the future of money. What it actually represents is total financial control. The Bank of England published a major update in October 2024, confirming they're in the design phase of the Digital Pound project. They've launched the Digital Pound Lab in 2025 for practical experimentation. A decision on whether to proceed will be made in 2026, with the earliest possible launch in the second half of this decade. This is really happening. The Bank of England and Treasury have published consultation papers, allocated budget, and are building infrastructure. They say it's about modernization, financial inclusion, reducing crime, all noble goals nobody could possibly argue against. But look at what's already happened in China with their digital yuan, money that expires if you don't spend it within a certain time frame, purchases blocked if your social credit score drops, geographic restrictions on where your money works. Now, the UK government says they'd never implement anything like that. They insist privacy protections will be built in, that neither the bank nor the government could access user data without proper legal authority. But here's the thing about infrastructure. Once it's built, it's a political decision whether and how to use it. And political decisions change with governments. They also swore they'd never lock down the entire country. They swore they wouldn't print hundreds of billions of pounds. They swore they wouldn't freeze tax thresholds for 7 years. The infrastructure for unprecedented financial control is being built right now. Whether they use it becomes a question of political will. And do you really want your wealth to exist purely as computer code that can be edited, restricted, or controlled by whoever happens to be in power? This isn't paranoia. This is pattern recognition. Let me show you the 3 pillars of actual wealth protection. Your high street bank will push you toward a cash ISA, paying 4% to 4.75%. Better than a regular savings account, but you're still losing ground against real inflation. Instead, you need a stocks and shares ISA. But here's the crucial part. Most people miss. You don't pick individual stocks. You don't try to time the market. You don't gamble on the next big thing. You buy global index funds that track the entire world economy. The FTSE All-World Index has averaged 8.7% annually over the last 30 years. After fees, you're looking at around 8%. That actually matches real inflation, which means you're not losing ground. Here's the move nobody talks about. You can transfer old ISAs from previous years into better performing ones without losing your tax-free status. Most people have dormant ISAs sitting around from jobs they left, accounts they forgot about, earning nothing or close to nothing. Transfer them, consolidate them, get them working. You can contribute £20,000 per year into ISAs. That's £40,000 for a couple. After 10 years of maxing that out, you've got £400,000 invested, growing tax-free. The compound effect means you could have £700,000 after 20 years. Complete protection from capital gains tax, dividend tax, income tax. It's literally the only remaining tax shelter the government hasn't destroyed yet. Everyone knows premium bonds. That government savings product your grandmother loves. £1 minimum, £50,000 maximum. Instead of interest, you get entered into monthly prize draws. Most people dismiss them because the effective return is only about 4.4%. Why bother when you could get more elsewhere? Because they're missing the genius part. Premium bonds aren't investments. They're financial camouflage. That £50,000 doesn't show up on means testing for benefits. It doesn't count toward your estate for care home fee calculations. It's instantly accessible with no penalties or waiting periods. And here's the kicker. It's the only financial product where the government guarantees your capital while simultaneously giving you complete privacy from other government departments assessing your wealth. It's paradoxical, but that's exactly why it works. The media has poisoned this term. Say offshore, and people immediately think tax dodger, criminal, Panama Papers. But having investments outside the UK is perfectly legal and increasingly necessary for anyone serious about protecting their wealth. You can open investment accounts in Ireland, Luxembourg, or the Channel Islands as a UK resident. These aren't tax havens. You still declare everything to HMRC. You still pay UK tax on your gains. But your wealth exists outside the reach of future UK policy changes. If the government decides to implement capital controls, wealth taxes, or emergency measures, or if the pound collapses, your money is already denominated in euros or dollars, sitting safely in Dublin or Jersey. And before you say, that's only for millionaires, you can open an Irish investment account with £5,000. Channel Islands accounts start at £10,000. This isn't about avoiding tax. It's about avoiding political risk. Here's what makes all of this urgent, and why I'm being so direct with you. The window for protecting your wealth isn't infinite. It's closing rapidly. Chancellor Rachel Reeves confirmed in the autumn 2024 budget that tax thresholds will remain frozen until April 2028. That's confirmed. But there's widespread speculation they could extend it even further, given the state of public finances. The Bank of England's digital pound decision is coming in 2026, with potential launch in the second half of this decade. Once that infrastructure is live, moving money becomes trackable in ways that don't exist today. Interest rates are predicted to remain elevated through 2025. That means continued mortgage stress, potential property price stagnation, and sustained pressure on household finances. The demographic cliff hits hard in 2029, when the largest cohort of baby boomers reaches pension age, crushing public finances and triggering unprecedented pressure for tax rises. By 2030, the UK financial landscape will be fundamentally different from today. The protective strategies available right now won't exist anymore. The window is probably 3 to 5 years, maybe less. But here's the brutal truth, and I need you to really hear this. Knowing this information means absolutely nothing if you don't act on it. Most people will watch this video, nod along, maybe even share it with a friend. Then they'll go back to their savings account, paying 1.5%, hoping things somehow get better on their own. They won't. Hope isn't a financial strategy. Neither is anger, despair, or waiting for political change to save you. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. Just not for you, unless you decide to change that right now, today. Open the stocks and shares I say this week. Research global index funds today, not next month. Make the transfers. Set up the standing orders. Look into premium bonds for your emergency fund. You can do it online in 15 minutes. Research international investment platforms. Start small if you need to, but start. Because wealth protection isn't about being rich. It's about not becoming poor. And in a system designed to gradually impoverish the middle class, Standing still is moving backward. The inflation theft continues every single day. Fiscal drag tightens with every pay rise. The property ladder pulls up while you're still climbing. The only question is whether you'll be a victim of this system or an exception to it. Remember Sarah, the teacher I mentioned at the start? After I showed her these strategies, she moved her dormant ISAs into global index funds. Within a week, she'd opened a Channel Islands account with £12,000 she had sitting in a low-interest savings account. She maxed out her and her husband's premium bonds. 6 months later, I checked in with her. Her investments had grown by 9%, but more importantly, she told me something that stuck with me. I sleep better now, not because I'm suddenly rich, but because I'm not just hoping things get better. I'm protected regardless of what happens. That's the difference between knowing and doing. Every month you delay costs you money. You'll never get back. Compound interest works both ways, either for you or against you. There's no neutral ground, no pause button. Your wealth is either growing or shrinking right now, today, this minute. The solutions exist. The strategies are legal. The window is open, but not for long. Subscribe to Brick and Pound News for more UK financial truth that mainstream media won't touch. The financial establishment doesn't want you educated. They want you compliant. We're here to make sure you're neither. Your wealth, your future, your choice. The clock is ticking.